What's up, everybody? It's Nomad222. Welcome back. This is another episode of Mad Mondays, and I want to thank you guys for watching and tuning into the channel, being consistent with me, and allowing me to talk my shit. For those of you who are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Go back and watch some of the older episodes. This is episode 13, so maybe go back to number 1 if you want to know exactly what this series is about, what I'm talking about, and what this is for. But today I'm talking about storytelling in my lyrics, and I've been looking forward to this episode because obviously as a lyricist and storyteller, storytelling is very important to me, and it's a huge part of what I enjoy as a consumer, as a listener, as a viewer. I'm chronically online. I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos. I enjoy watching Netflix and different movies and things like that. I'm into almost every single major fandom out there. I'm a huge geek and a huge nerd when it comes to things like the MCU, even the DCU right now, even Star Wars. I enjoy listening to J. Cole, obviously, Joyner Lucas, Kendrick Lamar, some of the best storytellers out there. So anyway, this is about me. This isn't about those guys. This is about me. Nomad222. Oops, triple deuce. Anyway, first question we got on here is, what role does storytelling play in your music? Huge role. Storytelling has been instrumental in influencing me to pursue storytelling in the music that I create. But when it comes to how I make music, I often start off with the concept. And I believe this is a huge thing that, it's the main thing that most storytellers start off with, whether it's writing a book, creating a screenplay, or doing whatever. When you're creating, you need a concept, you need a why, you need an idea to branch off of and flesh out so that you can have a whole tale or story to tell, right? So for me, it's often the beginning. It's the reason why I even make music in the first place. So that's the short answer for number 1. Question number 2 is, can you share a specific song where storytelling is prominent and explain its significance? I don't know if that means my own songs or if it means someone else's song. But if we're talking about my own songs, the song that comes to mind is The News, which is a song that I'm very proud of, and I hope that anyone that listens to my music, they listen to that song because it's not my perspective. That is a song that I wrote from the perspective of my partner T, who I've been with for almost 10 years. I think this is our 9th year together, or this might actually be 10 because we got together in 2015. It's 2025 now. So yeah, nearly 10 years. But in 2018, she told me that she was pregnant with our first child, Anaya. Or actually, it was 2017 when she first told me. And that news hit both of us like a ton of bricks. And I remember the day that she told me like it was yesterday. It was so vivid in my brain. And I wrote a song about it like years later. I want to say like 2020 was when I wrote it, or 2019. And I just took myself back to that moment, and I tried to put myself into her shoes and think about what I saw on her face, what I was absorbing, how I was interpreting it, and then writing it all down on paper. And then when I showed her, I remember for the first time, she cried. She bawled her eyes out, and it was kind of like a mix of tears of joy. And I remember her telling me, like, you got it. You got exactly what I was thinking. And I couldn't have asked for a better response. Like, that ultimately told me that, that I kind of have a knack for being able to, I guess, illustrate or author people's stories, and be a little bit autobiographical. Is it autobiographical? Or I guess biographical about other people's stories, and I can kind of be that figure that tells people's stories in that way. But that's my way. If you guys want to hear the song, it's out on all platforms. It's called The News, featuring Tewawata and Iconic Beats. But yeah, super proud of that. In terms of another song that is where storytelling is prominent, and this is a huge influence as to why I write songs like The News or Reach Out or, you know, any of the other multi-perspective songs that I've written before. Joyner Lucas has a song called Ross Cappuccini, and this was the first song that I ever heard from Joyner Lucas. And I remember I was at Collart's and I was hanging out with Iconic Beats, Pete, and Josh, and just a bunch of different artists at the time, and I had no idea who Joyner Lucas was, and someone told me that something that I was writing had Joyner Lucas vibes, and I was like, who is that? And they were like, you don't know who Joyner Lucas is? You don't know who he is? And they were like, here, check this out. They put on Ross Cappuccini, the music video, which that in itself is incredible storytelling and incredibly well shot. If you haven't heard that or seen that, go check that out. But it tells the real life story of a dude who in Detroit was tricked by someone who he thought was a real friend into going to an abandoned building. They tried to murder this dude and steal his car as part of a gang initiation. But the way that he tells this guy's story, like, Joyner Lucas is not Ross Cappuccini. He only heard the story and decided to write a tale about it. Because I believe Joyner's also from Detroit. That might play a part in it. So it was a little bit close to home. But overall, it's just the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and then turn that into rap, to turn that into hip hop. And that's something that, you know, for me, the significance of that is that it opened up a whole new lane to me. Like, I'd already heard of things like, you know, Stand by Eminem is a song that will always stand the test of time just for its sheer intelligence required to create a scenario like that. You know, having a number one fan that ultimately takes their life because you're not responding to their letters and things like that. Like, that's such a I don't want to say relatable, but it's a story that really, if not done to that extent, it's kind of, it just wouldn't work, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know, but Ross Cappuccini also does that for me, in a major way. That by far is one of the more impressive things. And I know that people are probably going to be a little bit disappointed that I didn't say something like J. Cole, but I guess, you know, J. Cole's Wet Dreams is one, where, you know, that's a super relatable story. And the significance of all of these songs that really catch my ear is that it inspires me to want to be able to be a bit more creative with how I tell my stories. You know, it's one thing to be autobiographical and tell your own story, but it's a whole other thing to be able to tell stories on behalf of other people within your community and really shine a light on what's happening around you. So that's my answer to number 2. Question number 3, how do personal experiences inform the narratives in your lyrics? I've talked about this one song many times before, which is Be Like That, featuring As One, produced by M.A.D and co-written by Sire. But that's all personal experience. The entire Nomadic Deluxe is all personal experience. It's everything that I've lived through as a man, as a rapper, as an artist, as a father, as a partner. It's everything. It's very autobiographical. Everything that I ever experience is all that I want to pour into my music, or everything that's going around me. And the reason why is because I ultimately made that choice from the very beginning that I wanted to be authentic. You know, my parents were the test for that, mainly my mom. Like, I knew that if I came out of the gate talking shit about, you know, trying to be the next 50 Cent, knowing my life is nowhere near a gangster from Queens, that they were immediately going to call me out on my shit and be like, that's not you. And I didn't want that to happen. I wanted people to hear my music and be like, yep, that's him. That's what happens. And I have a lot of these conversations with my younger brother, Marlon, or Milo, as people might know him. And he's often telling me, like, you know, some of the demos that I'll send him, he'll hit me back and he'll be like, that's real. And it's because I've seen you go through that. I knew I know, I've seen it with my own two eyes that that's what you've been through, and that's why it hits even harder for me. And that means a lot to me to be able to share that with people. So yeah. Question number 4, what techniques do you use to convey emotions through your songs? I'm not a very technical person. I do try and be organized, and it's a case-by-case thing. Every now and then I'll pull out notes and I'll just start to flesh out certain ideas. But most of the time it just starts with that first line. And just getting that first line out will inform the rest of the song. Or even if I can start off with the hook, that will inform the rest. That will inform what the verses are about. And it's kind of like a mental mind map where I know I have the idea in the middle, and now I just gotta branch off and flesh out these other things. But it's also kind of like a net as well, or a web, where I can branch out, but then I need to connect it back. That's kind of how I see verses. So I'll have the hook in the middle, I'll branch out into a verse, but it needs to connect back, and then it becomes this like daisy chain, this web. So that's as far as it comes to techniques in my songs. And what techniques do I use to convey emotions? We've already talked about the technique of, I guess this falls under technique, telling a story from a different perspective, third person, first person, and really just, being able to tap into what other people are feeling. That's always been super important to me. And that's, like I said with my partner Tawawata, when I showed her the news for the first time, the reason why that hit so hard for her was because it was pretty spot on. Was because I hit the mark. I feel like there's also potential to not hit the mark and still evoke a certain emotion, but that's probably more of a negative emotion. But anytime that I'm able to hit the mark and then have people be like, wow, I really get that. That really, like, you understand it. That's ultimately what I'm trying to do by, doing any of those techniques. Number 5 is, how do you balance personal stories with broader themes that resonate with listeners? It's a struggle. It's a struggle for sure. The news and be like that, like in my mind, it feels like a very narrow thing anytime that I talk about, trying to be a rapper / dad. Like the only other person that I know that is, on the grind to be a rapper whilst being a dad is strictly DT. I know there's a lot of rappers out there who have made it successful as a rapper, and that's not to put like myself or DT down, like we're successful in our own ways, but like, people who are major and then become parents, right? I seldom see people who, and not only that, but like rappers and actively parenting. Like strictly DT is a dad that is a dad first, and I see him, like the way that he works with Zev and everything, like him and his son have such an incredible relationship, and he's so open about being a father to him too. But often we see that a lot of rappers like that are successful, they're successful and just happen to have kids, but they're not really parenting. And I know that's like kind of judgy and things like that, but let's be real. There's not really a lot of, crazily enough, Eminem, Slim Shady is probably one of the best representations of a father in hip hop. But yeah, anyway, it's hard for me to balance them because a lot of my personal stories I feel like are very will relate to a select group of people, and even then, like, I guess I'm trying to make my personal stories a little bit more broad, so that you can kind of swap out myself for for other people, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's hard. That's the best answer that I can give to that one. Number 6, what impact do you have, or do you hope your storytelling has on your audience? I just hope that it provokes something within your mind that it makes you react, or better yet, makes you come back to it, make you want to unpack it a little more. Maybe you didn't get it the first time. Maybe you need a couple more listens to understand it fully. Maybe, but ultimately, I've feel like I've spoken about it throughout this entire episode. I just want you to be able to resonate with it. I hope that my storytelling makes you cry, makes you smile, but in a positive way that makes you go, wow, you really understood it. You really get it. Or, wow, you really captured that so well and really elaborated on what that feeling means and what that's like. Whether it's a song about hardship, or it's a song about love, or a song about death, or, all the other things that I talk about, a song about community. I just want people to feel like I got it. Or feel like they got it. Like, they heard it and they were like, I really get it now. So yeah. Last question is, how has your approach to storytelling evolved over time? Yeah, like I said, I feel like I've always been storytelling. But in the beginning, it was definitely more about telling my own stories, and just kind of, being basic first person, telling you guys the story as listeners. Whereas, 2016 or whatever, hear Ross Cappuccini for the first time, and I'm like, wow, you know what? I'm going to write from other people's perspectives. I'm not just going to tell you that, this happened to this person and tell you in that way. I'm going to be like, I am that person and this is my story, and tell it on their behalf. And that's how you get songs like The News and Reach Out and everything like that. So there's been a huge difference in how I tell my stories. But also, like, just kind of taking a look at the different disciplines and how I can collaborate and combine and further delve deeper into stories through visual mediums. Like sonically, it's one thing to be able to do that, but one thing that I've always wanted to do, similar to like Jordan Lucas, like he's got such an eye, or his team do a really good job at creating immersive music videos to tell the stories that he's crafted musically. For example, I'm Not Racist is the perfect example. They hired two different actors, and it's obviously Joyner's voice, but those actors learn the lines and then they portray the characters that he's written out and created and authored. And I think that's just so impressive. And I really want to be able to do more of that moving forward. It's something that I haven't gotten the chance to do much of yet, but being able to work with skilled actors who are able to tell your stories for you, and skilled directors and cameramen and people that are able to convey your stories in a compelling and skillful way, is something that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope that we can evolve to over time. But anyway, shorter episode today, but that's pretty much everything, all the questions for this one. I was really looking forward to this, and I'm glad that I got to, be a fan and talk more about Joyner and J. Cole and all these artists who have really inspired me to be the storyteller that I am. And I hope that you guys enjoy the way that I tell stories too. If you guys have any notes or anything that you want to share with me in terms of what I've put out in the past and what you're looking forward to in the future, please leave it in the comments below. Like or dislike this video, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. I say it all the time, we're going for a golden play button. We need that play button. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got something from it. And let me know if you guys are also storytellers too, because I'm looking for people to collaborate with all the time. And, people that are just on the same wave of let's just make dope shit, put it out into the world, and whatever happens, happens. This is the year of shooting shots. There's 365 days in a year. That's 365 shot attempts. All we need is one to drop. Anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel. And don't forget that together we move.